Well, as you can see, I'm all excited. I'm like a kid in the proverbial toy shop here. In this case though, it's a record shop, and not just any old record shop. We're in the famous musical box in Tuebrook. I first came here, I think it was about 1972, actually bought my first single here, bought my first album here, and today you got the owner.
Yes.
Diane Cain.
Yeah.
Lovely to meet you, Dan. How are you?
I'm sure we've met before.
Oh, we have.
But when you bought your record in '72, you'd have bought it off my mum.
It will have been,
Yeah,
I remember your mum well. But I'll tell you the song, it was Roy Wood, Forever.
Oh, golly, is
That was the first
nice?
single I ever bought.
Yeah. Roy Wood,
Yeah.
ELO, all that sort of stuff. Still selling. Though people don't buy Roy Wood like they buy ELO stuff. He sort of faded out, Roy Wood. Character though, wasn't he?
He
real
was.
Character.
He was.
Yeah.
But as I say, the reason we're here today, we're going to capture, or trying to capture, a little piece of Tuebrook social history today, Dan.
Yes.
And we're keen
Yes.
to basically extol the virtues of what a great place this is and the number of years you've had the shop open. Let's start off, if I may, by asking you how long the shop has been open.
Well, the shop was opened originally, if you look in the Kelly's directory, this was a fancy goods shop in 1906. The building is 1879. So the numbering was different then because there weren't as many shops. My Uncle Jack, my mother's brother, came out of the RAF after the war. He took it on and he sold toys, birthday cards, ciggies, woodies,
Okay.
remember woodies, and all that kind of stuff. He also had one on Muirhead Avenue Bridge, which was modern, one of the modern shops, and his wife preferred that. So he sold this on to my mum in 1950, 51. So we've been here ever since, and we used to live upstairs. In fact, the piano is still upstairs. And we carried on selling toys, Hornby Dublo, Meccano, Dinky toys. Should have hung on to them actually, shouldn't have sold them.
Where do you rob these days, aren't
They are worth a fortune. And we carried on with that kind of thing. We did away with the cigarettes, only because my brother used to smoke the stock. And eventually music became more and more popular. So we ended up with music spreading around the shop and the toys disappearing. And that's the way it went, because music became the thing people were interested in. They would go to work, get their pay on Fridays, come to a record shop, buy 3 records for £1, because that's how much they were in the 50s and 60s, and it became a big talking thing, and you could only go, excuse me, in a record shop to buy them. You couldn't go in your local supermarket, you couldn't go anywhere else, you had to go in a place that sold records, which was a record shop.
And can I put a timeline on that down? Would that be about the mid-50s, Bill Haley era, mid-50s
rock and roll.
onwards?
Rock and roll really kicked it off. Every generation has its rhythm. I've found that out about music. So the first rhythms pre-war were strict tempo, syncopated dance bands, and then you got the jitterbug and the jive during the war, and then after the war you got lots of lovely ballads, lovely songs, lots of ballads, and then rock and roll kicked in. and rock and roll started the business rolling. It really did.
And of course, more and more people in those days had started to get TVs, so they were being exposed to this music. So consequently, he thought, I'd like to own a copy of that single, and that's how your record started.
I don't think television affected music at all.
Yeah.
I think people who like music listen to Radio Luxembourg, listen to Radio Caroline when Caroline was around, AFN. I used to listen to AFN. We always listened to Joe Stafford on a Sunday night on AFN, and I think people who like music would do that. Television didn't have much effect on music until later on they started advertising LPs on TV, K-Tel, all that sort of stuff. That became, and they would promote them before Christmas to get the best-selling album. But generally, people who like music listened. Nowadays, people tend to watch, don't they? So they go by the image, what they're looking at, and that helps to sell the record. So you get people with a gimmicky look. I always think David Bowie, I do not care for a lot, but I think if he'd just been a fellow in a suit, would he have sold? It was his look, wasn't it?
That image.
It was the image. Gilbert O'Sullivan had to have an image, the flat cap and the boots. Leo Sayer wore a clown's outfit to start with. You had to get the look, and this was as television was taking over.
So, tell us what the first record you ever bought from the musical box, please, Stephen.
The first record that he was looking through the windows by the Jackson 5. What it was, I bought it when I was about 13, but I didn't have to buy any songs before that because he had a big family, 5 sisters, and they were working at the time. And every Friday when you got the wages, I was seeing what records to bring back to the musical box. So in that respect, it was good for me. And I got to about 13, bought my first song, Look Through the Window by the Jackson 5, which was a Motown classic, which is the love of my life really, the Motown and the soul music. As I say, I went to the musical box with my friends. I still remember the day, going up there, all excited. It's the equivalent to buying an iPhone for the kids these days. You know what I mean? It's something you can hold on to and keep for all your life. And I remember going up, asking for the song, asking for it to be played, stood there, listened to it. So that was me, made sure there was no scratches. Off I went, and when I got home, played it to death on my mum's record player. But a few weeks later, I progressed to the LPs, and I bought Volume 6, which was a classic Motown album at the time. And it gave me a lot more songs to listen to and to practice me dancing in the house when I went to the local disco. And all my life, it's been the love of my life, the Motown music, soul music. And I'd like to thank the musical box for starting me off on my journey for my love of music.
First single I ever bought, I just spoke to my brother, he reckons it was Life on Mars, David Bowie, but I reckon it was Born in Blitz by The Sweet. So I'm going with Born in Blitz. It's a fantastic introduction, great drumming. Mick Tucker was a great drummer, very underrated drummer, sadly not with us anymore. I've been known to do a bit of drumming myself, and it's a very hard one to pull off, the introduction, fantastic introduction, call and response with the band. And The Sweet were my first band, really. Great. I loved the glam era and watching Top of the Pops, listening to the Top 40, and The Sweet really appealed to me. It was a bit of I had the Brian Conley haircut as well. Some embarrassing photographs, as probably everyone has in the 70s. But what I remember about them times is the labels as well on the sleeves, and you look at those like R.A.K. and Bell and all that, and you see them and it really excites you, to those times, like you can see Mud and Tiger Feet and all that. But yeah, I love The Sweet. Sadly Brian Conley's not with us anymore as well, due to the excesses. Sadly too much drink. But exciting times, the glam era. It's just a brilliant song. It was Chin and Chapman who wrote a lot of singles for other bands, more than Susie Quatso and all that, and the Sweet generally do their own B-sides, but it was mainly Chin and Chapman who wrote the A-sides. They were great players, The Sweet. I think very underrated band. Possibly the way they looked. They had a bit of a bad glam look. But they went on to have a good rock look. But it's just a fantastic production record.
Well, the first single I ever bought is a bit embarrassing, to tell you the truth. Like, it's not the coolest song that you'll ever I'd ever think of, like, either being into. It was Under the Moon I Love Shawadi Wadi. I don't know really how I got into the song. It all stems from Top of the Pops, I think. Like, when I was 9 years old, 1976. You know, we all used to love getting there. I think it was Thursday night one at Top of the Pops, like, and just remember seeing these teddy boys, like, you know what I mean, all of a sudden appearing on Top of the Pops, like. This song that just sort of gripped me. No, it wasn't a song I'd thought I'd really have liked a lot, because I was brought up in a household full of, like, all my family, like, were all like Marvin Gaye fans, Jackson 5, all the rest of it, like. So, like, I think I was looking for my own sort of identity, like, you know what I mean? Now, obviously I wasn't walking around in, like, crepe shoes and all that, like, do you know what I mean? But it was just like, you know, there's about 20 of them on stage, like the Black Drummer, Moses and all that, like, they just got me, like, it was just that, like, sort of doo-wop sort of sound, like, you know what I mean, that got me, like, and yeah, it was a great song, like, you know what I mean, and I really loved it. And also, I think one of my mates who we used to grow up with in the old New Road, he used to tell me that the lead singer was his uncle. Now, I fell for the hook, line and sinker, like, because when I used to, like, see his uncle going, I used to spit an image of him, same haircut and all that, like. When I think about it now, I don't even think it was his uncle. I think he was having an affair with his mum. But yeah, it was all that, like, and yeah, it's a great song, like. When I done a bit of research on it, the original was also it was a Phil Spector song. But yeah, Shawadi Wadi, I'm afraid, sorry.
Okay, Dinky, what was the first record you ever bought at the musical box?
It was about 1984, I think it was, April or something. It was The Killer, Jerry Lee Lewis. I was going to this rock and roll boogie woogie phase, but it was a double cassette. And I actually bought it for my birthday. She didn't even like rock and roll, she didn't, you know, but I had it, because I used to live in Marlborough Road, 28A Marlborough Road, and we had a little ghetto blaster cassette thing, and that was the first one. And it's Diane, is it, the woman? So then I think we went to America in '85 because we got signed to Virgin. And when I come back, I was surprised it was still open, and I went in there to buy my own record, and they never had it, much to my chagrin, like that. And what was it called? It was called Golden Age, and she catalogued it and ordered it for me. You know what I mean? Great times, like.
And so that first record that you bought, you know, under your own steam, if you like, what was that one called?
It was called, it was either called The Killer Kills Rock and Roll, or Rock and Roll of the Killer, but it was it was a double cassette. Because Dinky was on it, obviously Great Balls of Fire, but there was a tune, and it was an out country tune. I think it was written by Ray Charles or something, because he's done it's called Go On and Cry. If your sweetheart sends a letter of goodbye, and just roll it.
But probably touched something in your soul.
Oh, big time, yeah. Well, I'm a frustrated piano player anyway, you know what I mean? It's like, I probably sound more like Les Dawson now, you know, but. And I passed there today, the musical box as well. It's like, what a brilliant final emporium it was, and still is. You know what I mean? It's pretty sad to see them type of emporiums. They sell memories, don't they? People call it music, but like it's actually, you know, it's like, oh, you remember the crackle, you remember what it looked like, you pour over it, and now it's just like kids go, oh yeah, download. It's all faceless music, and it's pretty sad. And actually, it's pretty funny because, you know what I mean? Because we know how warm it feels to have something like that to touch your heart.
Or in terms of your shop, let's backtrack a moment, back to
Yeah.
those late 50s, early 60s, the coming of the Beatles, as you just mentioned there.
Yeah.
Were you selling lots of records in those days?
Well, yes, but music all came from the States. The Mersey Beat sound was something totally astonishing to me, because all the best stuff came from the USA. They wrote the best songs, they had the best musicians, and then suddenly these lads who used to buy guitar strings off us suddenly started imitating all the American stars and doing their own versions, and the ones that lasted were the ones that wrote their own songs. The ones that just copied America disappeared, really. But if they had their own songs, like the Beatles, Lennon and McCartney kept it going by writing stuff, and they became, it amazed me, so world famous, because to me they were just somebody who probably lasted as long as Skiffle had done, because Skiffle came in, went out, trad jazz came in, went out. But the Beatles, for them still to be popular all these years, 50 years later, it's unbelievable.
And you mentioned that the boys used to come in here to buy guitar strings. Was
Well,
that,
everybody, all the kids played guitars, and we'd sell straps and the Plex, and it was quite a good business in those days. People were throwing out pianos, weren't they? They were burning pianos. Sad, terribly sad. But Tuebrook was quite a busy area in those days.
Yeah, I believe so.
If you went down Tuebrook, say in the 50s, we had 2 shoe shops, we had a Boots and a Woolworths. It was really busy place. Butchers, fruit and veg, clothes shops. Nothing like that in Tuebrook anymore.
We even had another record shop, didn't we? I think it was called something, the Golden Disc, was it, something like that?
Round the corner, they came in later. They came in when
One on Lisbon Lane.
music had caught on, and they established themselves round the corner on Lisbon Lane. So if you think about most districts in Liverpool, most of them had 2 record shops. You didn't just have one. Most areas, Old Swan, had 2 or 3, so there was always more than one record shop. But in the early days of records, in the early days of 78s, for instance, they were sold everywhere in cycle shops. Cycle shops always sold records, and you could buy them because music was always important before the war. People were buying these breakable 78 shellac. We've still got hundreds of them upstairs.
Yeah.
But Tuebrook was a busy place. It was a good place to be. But now the high street has gone, hasn't it? We had our 2 cinemas. I think my mum and I used to go about 2 or 3 times a week to the Carlton or the Empress. And then we'd go to the Palladium, because we provided the music at the Palladium. We'd give them 378s to play, which made them popular. I remember the night we sent them, 1952, we took Al Martino singing Here in My Heart, and they played it while people were buying their ice cream. And people actually stopped and looked at the screen and listened and said, "Who's that?" And that was the first #1 done by the recording rather than the sheet music, because up till then you went by sheet music, sales of sheet music. So when that came out, that was the first #1 for an actual record, and people came in, we sold it like crazy, but we liked to do that. We'd send them some. You didn't hear them on the radio all the time. You know, now you can hear music everywhere. Most of it isn't available yet. They play it for weeks before it actually comes out. Then when it does come out, people have forgotten about it and moved on to something else. But in those days, that was the way we did it.
Okay, I was about to interrupt you because you mentioned your mum there. Now that brings
Yes.
back a very vivid memory for me personally, because I mentioned before about the first single I bought was in this shop, first album.
Yeah.
But there was a particular song, as there have been many songs over the years, but this particular song I was after for months and months, and then I happened to walk into Your mum served me
Yeah.
actually in your shop in Old Swan, and it was by a band called Tommy James and the Shondells, and the song was called Crystal Blue.
Crystal Blue Persuasion.
And I always remember the sense of excitement, and when your mum had said, "Yeah, we got a copy of that in those boxes. These boxes we're looking at here."
Yeah.
And I don't know.
We have got a box with Tommy James and the Shondells,
Yeah.
actually.
Let's
If
go.
you want to be...
Wow. I've gone back in time. Tommy James and the Shondells. Now, I mentioned to Diane before, because I went into a mum's shop in Old Swan many years ago, about 1976, 77, and I asked, have you got a song by Tommy James and the Shondells called Crystal Blue Persuasion? And I'm looking now. See, the art of the record collector, you look at the B-side as well.
Yes.
Always important, because in those days, the B-side, most of the time, was just as good as the A-side. Look at this. Moni, just seeing. Somebody cares. These records must have been here for so
They
long.
have. They've been there since they came out.
Wow. So this is probably the same box down that
Yeah.
your mum
Yeah.
reached
Be
up on the
same.
shelf and said, yes,
Yeah.
we've got a copy of that.
Yeah.
Just look into your soul, and open your mind.
Music popular when they were working. That was a good era.
Yeah,
I
it
liked
was. I'll put that back
yeah.
for you.
Thanks, dear. Thank you.
Crystal blue persuasion.
But that service that you were giving to people like me, record collectors like me, when I could confidently walk into your shop and know that if you didn't have it there and then, you would order it for me.
Well, it was easier in those days too, because most records came out from record companies. It's not like today. Today there's so many independent labels. Often people will ask and Tony will say, yes, I'll get it for you. And then he has to find out somebody who distributes it, because often it's quite difficult. But in those days, people were signed up to a record label, like
Yes.
Parlophone, HMV,
EMI,
Decca,
yeah.
all of the record labels, and most people went through a record company. And I suppose once they discovered, as they do now, they can make more money if they avoid record signing contracts. They go their own way, but it makes it sometimes more difficult to obtain things from people unless you're on the internet, and then you can find it for them. So, but in those days, records came out once a month. You got an advance list of what was coming out. You could tick off what you wanted and get them in quite quickly.
Well, that could be my next question actually, because
Yeah.
I've always been fascinated by how you guys in the musical box chose the music to sell, if you like. Was it forced upon you by record companies, we'll send you 5 or 10 copies,
No.
or did you make an informed choice, as you say, ticking off a box?
Well, you ordered what you thought you'd sell because you knew customers what they liked. They did send reps around a lot. We never see reps nowadays, but in those days there'd be reps one after the other. And my mother was very weak at saying no, so she just about bought everything they suggested. And a lot of those albums are still on the shelf now, so we still have them.
Yeah.
As I say, we always had more stock than money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was never on a sale or return basis, it was always you had to put...
You got 5% returns. Always had 5%. But record companies are very clever. They'd break it down to a particular label, so you could send back 5% of Decca, which was pretty good if you'd ordered a lot of Decca. But if you hadn't ordered that much Decca, you could only send half a record back. They worked it like that. They didn't do it on your total account. But we were allowed 5%, yeah. We're still allowed 5%, but we hardly ever send anything back. Because we always say, oh, somebody wanted it. Yeah.
Now, in terms of the general population of this area, Tuebrook,
Yeah.
of course, have you had lots of support over the years from the people of Tuebrook in terms of coming in buying records,
Well, I think people
making
just
friends.
go where it's convenient, don't they?
Yeah.
No, people still like to go into town. People still come in and tell us of stuff they've bought elsewhere.
Oh, right.
People love to come in and talk and tell me about their record collections, and I'm standing there listening and thinking, but aren't I a record shop? You didn't buy that from me, you didn't buy that here. No, people go where it's convenient. We do have loyal customers, pretty good customers, and we do get their grandchildren now,
Really?
because we have been selling for a long time.
You just had a couple of customers in the shop down. Now, in terms of the buying habits and people coming in, I remember coming in there in the 70s and the place was absolutely packed out.
Oh, yes.
Apparently it's not the case these days.
No, it isn't, simply because I think the encouragement by the council is to go into the city and spend your money there. And then a lot of people get in the car and go to places outside cities, don't they? Shopping malls, various distances away. But you don't need a record. In the old days, people were interested. They'd watch Top of the Pops and they'd go in a shop on Friday or Saturday, the nearest one, to get it right away. That's not required. We don't have to play music to people anymore. That's another thing. People come in and they know what they want. It's in their head. Whereas years ago, the shop would be full of DJs looking for stuff for their discos, and so you'd play them all the new releases, and they'd choose half a dozen, and it was turning over like that all the time. But it's life, isn't it? It's progress. Everything has changed.
It is.
And you don't need a record shop, really. And the people we have tend to be over 40 or even over 50. They're buying rock, nostalgia, country music. We sell very little current stuff now. You won't find us the Beyonce and the stuff like that. We stock it, but we don't sell it in quantities. Whereas if a new Merle Haggard CD gets reissued, we'll sell loads of that because all the country fans will want it. So we can do wonderfully well with our nostalgia, our rock music and our country. And that's what we rely on. And they're all collectors, and they're mainly men.
That's a good point, actually,
Yeah,
which is
they're
brought to
mainly
mind.
men.
We've had plenty of discussions over the years where, and the women take the mickey a little bit because they think it's obviously it's a lad thing, it's a man thing,
It's a man
collecting
thing,
records. Would you
collecting.
agree?
Yeah, definitely. Very few women collect. We have a few females, nice ladies. Young people don't collect. They're only interested in one track. It's gone back to the days of it being the one track, like when you bought a 7-inch record. Now you're downloading it, and they don't want a whole album, young people. Very rarely want a whole album. It's just the one song they want for the moment. And whereas in the old days they'd buy the 7-inch vinyl, now they download it.
That's a really interesting point because me personally, when I was coming into this place,
Yeah.
or the record shops in Liverpool over the years, I wish there were many. We'll come on to that in
Yeah.
a moment. I would actually, if I ever heard a song by a particular artist, good example is a guy called Bob Welch, former
Yes.
member of the Eagles. He had a solo album out, and I bought the whole album on
Yeah.
the strength of one song called Church,
Yes.
which I'd heard on the radio.
Yeah.
But that was me, and that's hence why I probably got a huge record collection
Yes.
right now, because I took chances like that on the, as I say, the strength of one song. I bought the whole album, but that doesn't happen these days now.
Well, not with youngsters, no, because they're all into technology and downloading and listening on their phones and whatever that amounts to. One day they will realise they haven't got a record collection and they might start buying. But they do say that within 5-10 years the CD will have vanished because they've got something even better that will be smaller and easier to store.
I'm harping on here, excuse the pun,
Yeah.
but it's that natural curiosity as a music lover that you say, well, I'm quite happy to shell out £4, £5, £6 for the album, because I'm looking at it cost-wise. The single's going to cost me £1.50, £2.
Yeah.
I might as well go the whole
Yeah.
hog and buy the
Yeah.
album, and there might be some more great songs on that. So that music lover sort of perspective
And you
seems
get
to have
to
disappeared.
know the other tracks,
Exactly.
don't you?
Yeah.
I'm not very keen on people who say, but I only know the one song, and I think, how on earth are you ever going to know anything else if you're only going in for the one song? And they still do that. There's lots of people who still wouldn't dream of buying a CD. They often come in and they say, well, can you put it on a disc for me? And Tony says, no, it's available. We can't do that because it's available. We do it for funerals, if they want it for the funeral. But generally, but I only want the one song. And we often say, but the CD is only £6. Oh, but I only want the one song.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. Obviously, in terms of business, that's not a great help. But at the same time, as we've mentioned a couple of times now, guys have been here a long, long time. Looking around the shop now, there's an awful lot of memorabilia on the wall, which brings back memories, happy memories, of course, for me. And I can imagine a lot of other people who are going to watch this film that we're making today. But
well, we used to sell a lot of sheet music.
Yeah.
And I've still got loads of that in the back because I collected.
But I was going to say, Dan, if I may interrupt,
Yeah.
how does it feel having a record shop?
It's
You know,
lovely.
full of soul, if you like.
It's lovely.
It must be, yeah.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
I've done it all my life. I worked for my parents for very little money because if you work for your family, you don't get much, you know. You never get holidays. You can't go off and leave the place. So Tony never takes holidays, do you? You're always here for people.
You've got Tony in the
Yeah.
background, he's busy serving the customer
Yeah.
at the moment.
As I say, when you work for your family, you don't get much money out of it. And I ended up with the shop. But I've always loved the music better than anything.
Yeah, I've
I
got to
just
say.
loved it. And that's what I miss now, because we can't recommend stuff to people. We don't play stuff. We're not playing music all day for people and picking out the ones that will be hits and the ones that will miss. We made loads of mistakes.
You
The
must have done,
second record was never a hit. They'd have one hit and the follow-up record you end up with a box full nobody wants.
It's a difficult second album sort of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But your customers these days, you say they're very loyal and stuff like that. Have you got a good handle on what those particular customers are going to be asking
as
for?
I say,
So
it's rock, nostalgia, or country.
So you react in
and
that
soul.
sense.
We sell quite a bit of soul.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And reggae. Reggae. There's lots of people who like
Still
reggae.
like reggae,
Yeah. They don't buy much else. They only buy reggae. It's funny. Some people are very compartmentalised, aren't they? They're in a. They just like that sort of stuff.
it.
Yeah.
And it's in a way it's a bit mad from my perspective, because I'm thinking in terms of your shop, there's an awful lot of music, for example, out there. You can hear some music and every different outlet, these internet, you've got your downloads, so obviously that must have impacted on
I
your
think
business.
there's too much.
Yeah, sometimes I do.
I think there's
that.
so much of it. People sometimes just can't pick out what they really like. It's at you. I'll tell you what I dislike too. Presenters on radio never tell you what they've just played.
Oh, yeah, Mike has hate as well.
Isn't that dreadful?
Yeah.
Because if you're listening to music, if it's something new especially, which Radio 1, Radio 2 are always doing, they should say what it is. Not before they've played it, after they've played it. That's when you tell people. So that really riles me. I think the old DJs were much better.
Mm-hmm.
New
I agree.
DJs, apart from Jimmy Sam, of course. We won't talk about him.
And of course, talking about presenters, we got famous local legends, Sir William Butler, MBE, Mrs. Butler's eldest.
Yeah.
I listen to Billy's show an awful lot, and he's a great champion of local music, which I love about him, you know.
He always did that. He
He's
was
a great champion of your shop as well.
Yes, because he used to live up the road, didn't he, Grey Rock Street? And he bought his first Buddy Holly album, which he's never forgotten, off my mother. And he always talks about that. And yeah, he's great for us. Radio Merseyside is great for us. They're very good to us. They promote us. I was invited in a few years ago by Billy Moore to do a half-hour spot in his programme, play CDs for people, and it's most enjoyable. It really is. It's lovely taking stuff in that you think people will enjoy.
Yeah.
It's a great pleasure, that.
Billy, I believe the first record you ever bought was actually in the musical box.
No, not the first record I ever bought. The first album I ever bought, it was in the musical box. Because as you know, in the 50s and 60s, there were record shops everywhere. And we had a little shop on West Derby Road near where I lived in Greyrock Street that was called the Music Box actually, because Diane's is the musical box, you see. And the Music Box used to deal with all the girls from Ogden's at the record club and stuff like that. But I used to always go to the Music Box when we played football in Museum Park, because we cut through by the police station and over the road to look at Diane's window. And I looked in the window and you had Buddy Holly Volume 2. That came out just after he died. And that was about 8 o'clock at night, because we played football till the early hours. So I was coming up, I had something the next day and bought it. You know, it was only then that I realised it wasn't a record shop, it was a gold mine. And because of that, because Mrs. Cain told me that her daughter had a shop in Old Swan, I went up there as well, and that was the same. You know, just piled high with records.
You're obviously a record collector over the years, Billy. That sense of thrill when you walk into a shop like the Musical Box, can't beat it, can you? You can't. And it's still the same in Diane's shop. You know, as I say, she's got all these boxes stacked up on top of each other, and she has with things like Atlantic, you know, London American, Contempo, Mojo, HMV. All the originals as well.
And before she started stocking so many CDs, behind the counter there'd be rows and rows of 45s, and you could tell by the sleeves, you know, you recognise his old parlophone sleeves or his old so you know. And it was a matter basically I mean, I was very lucky because we'd been on the radio and we'd helping them sell stuff as well. I could, you know, I was privileged. I'd say, could I have a look in that box? And she'd say, yeah, okay, you know.
Can you give us one instance when there was a record, hard to get record, that you managed to find in the Musical Box, Billy?
Oh, there's quite a few of them, because as you know, I mean, I was heavily involved in Northern Soul, and there was plenty of times I knew what was taking off in Manchester and Nottingham and places like that, and that would filter through to Liverpool. So if all of a sudden, because in the NME you just have a records wanted, and people would advertise wanted so and so, you know, rare Northern Soul, you see. And so I'd go down to Mrs. Cain, you know, and I'd say, can I look at your London American box or your A to Z box or whatever it is, you know. And you know, 9 times out of 10 I'd find it there, because nobody had cottoned on, you see.
Great.
And then when people did cotton on, you know, and then Mrs. Cain actually cottoned on, because people had been, I mean, I remember a guy who told me he went there was a big Dusty Springfield Northern Soul one, he bought 7 of Mrs. Cain, you know, and then gradually Ian and Tony became used to the fact that, you know, there's people coming in here buying our stuff just to sell it again.
And finally, Billy, the if you like, the demise of record shops, certainly in Liverpool, is obviously a sad thing. Musical Box being, I think, one of the very few shops still left open.
It's dreadful. I mean, it's hard to tell the kids it's dreadful because they've never experienced it. But they won't have the kick now of going through rows and rows of records and coming across a gem. Well, what do they keep the records on? A stick? You can't get excited over a stick. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, one of the pleasures of me buying a record, certainly an album, was reading the sleeve notes as well.
I know that. So why do you think I wear glasses now? Because you have to read in CDs, it's next to impossible. Yeah. Let me tell you about my nightmare though, this is absolutely true. I've told this to Mrs. Cain a few times. I had this nightmare that I'd just come back from holiday, right? And I'm driving down West Derby Road in my car, and I go past the Musical Box, there's a big sign in the window, sale now over. And that's the honest to God's truth. That's how much I was into the Musical Box. I had a dream that the sign in the window was sale now over, but that would have killed me. Because I don't think she's ever had a sale.
I understand totally, Billy. He's only likes us music lovers. And
she's never had a sale, no. I don't think. She never had to.
Doesn't need to, no.
It's never even had never sold stuff in record collector or nothing. You know.
And she's still getting a lot of custom these days.
Yeah, well, where else can you go to get a collectible 45? Mint.
I was talking to your son before about the lack of record shops in the city now. I mean, at the top of my head, I genuinely cannot think of any other independent record store like the Musical Box that exists in this city.
There's only Probe.
Probe, of course, yeah.
Probe.
Yeah.
Well, that's because to sell a lot of records in this day and age, you need to be in a prime site with lots of passing trade. If you're in a prime site, your business rates and your rent are going to be sky high. So you have to clear an awful lot of stock to pay that. We don't have rent because my mother, in her wisdom, bought the building, and we're not in a prime site because Tuebrook, you yourself will admit, is definitely deteriorating. It used to be Toxteth, then it was Kensington, now it's Tuebrook, and they've sort of travelled across town, and it's just ruining. We have 3 halfway houses in Tuebrook for recovering whatever's. It doesn't help. And because it's a poor district, we didn't even have rates to pay last year because rateable values had fallen so much. We didn't have rates to pay, so that was a saving, and that's how we survive. And as I say, if you work for yourself, you don't take a fortune out of it. We're not bankers, you know. We're not taking. So we've survived simply because we're lucky enough to own the building, and we like the business. And we don't expect to make a fortune, because you can't. And no prime sites for us. People often say, why don't you move into town? It's a town. HMV can't cope with it in town.
So Dan, let's sum up then. What would you say the future for the musical box is? You're obviously going to keep on going as long as you can.
Well, until my legs give out, but I'm a great age now. Tony's going to keep on going as long as he can, aren't you, love? So it's his business really now. We're partners. So when I'm gone, it's his, isn't it? So he's got to keep it going. Possibly we might end up having to go online and doing it that way. We don't now because we don't want to be bothered with it, but possibly that's the way the business is going, because everything is in the air, isn't it now?
That's right.
Yeah. People were not so physical. In the old days it was your LP sleeve, reading it, taking it out of the cover, putting it on.
I remember getting, let me tell you a quick
putting the
tale.
needle on.
Do you know what, I could talk all day. The first week I bought, it was August 1974, I bought Cat Stevens' Grace's first album.
Yeah.
The following week I used to get paid weekly in a brown
Yeah.
envelope. I used to get £12.50.
Yeah.
Second week, on the Saturday, I came in and bought a record that changed my life. It was Al Green's Grace's Discs.
Oh,
Remember
yeah,
the brown
yeah,
cover?
yeah.
You know, and we're talking real like Mike Tyson.
Wasn't he sexy? Had such a sexy voice. I always thought he was sexier than Barry White.
Or
But-
Marvin Gaye.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Marvin Gaye didn't have a sexy voice. I just liked
I
his
used to
voice.
argue to people
Yeah.
say Al Green's more
Al
sexy
Green
than
had
Marvin
that
Gaye.
sexiness in his voice.
I know. I've used Al Green many a time when I brought young ladies back to my
When you were tired of being alone.
time been long now. I just say, so let's stay together. Yeah. But yeah, Dan, it's been lovely talking to you. And as I say, upwards and onwards. This shop itself, I mean, you must get passing trade, certainly in cars. You must have had 1 trillion cars go past. You are almost like an institution
People
in
often
the city.
call in and say, well, I've been passing this shop for years and I've never called in.
Yeah.
So they do call in, but an awful lot of them just stand and look.
Do
Look all around.
Yeah.
Don't see places like this anymore.
That's right.
And I say, no, you only will see them if you spend money in them.
I know. If I just make,
Yeah.
I mean, look at the album there, the Bob Dylan, The Times They Are Changing. I've had that in my collection for a long time. Great
Yeah.
album. What have we got? We got Focus, Rush. We got some great pictures. The Kinks.
Pink Floyd
What do you-
are the best
yeah.
sellers there.
Are they?
You know when they talk about the Beatles?
Yeah.
We sell more Pink Floyd
Do you?
ever than Beatles.
Always been popular in Liverpool for some reason.
Yeah.
Only have the cover
Liverpool
band.
aren't fond of the Beatles. I think because the Beatles succeeded, Liverpool people tend to dislike people who do well. So probably we sell loads of Pink Floyd,
Okay.
honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
But every now and then you get somebody collecting all the Beatles albums and they bring them out again, repackage them and do that sort of thing.
Evening. Okay.
But Pink Floyd are probably better sellers than the Rolling Stones or anything.
Really, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm looking at the albums there now.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Have they been on the shelf a long time, Dan? Or do
Yeah,
you fully
they've
expect?
been on the shelf a long
I
time.
was going to say you don't expect to sell all them in time.
Somebody will buy them.
Yeah.
Somebody, we had an album, sitar music, and this young man this morning came in and he wanted to sample. He said, have you got anything with sitars on? And this album had been in the shop for 40 years and
40?
he bought it. I got rid of it at last. I think it was called Swinging Sitars.
Okay.
If you could imagine that.
That sounds like goes back even before Harry Krishna, what was it, George Harrison's efforts.
We
in that
probably
respect.
would have done better if we kept all the Dinky toys, though, and never sold them.
Yeah.
Because we would have really been made. And Tony had a collection when he was a baby. How many did you have? Because 165 Auntie Kath said she counted one day. Because every time he came to visit my mum, she'd give him a new Dinky toy and Corgi toys. And what happened to them? You sold them for drugs, didn't you?
Tony's hiding behind the camera today, but we can just about hear his voice. Yeah. And Diane, one part in shot here, you mentioned off before that this used to be where you held all the toys and the Dinky toys rather than records.
The teddies and the dollies, and we sold all that. In fact, a lady rang me up a couple of years ago to say she still had the teddy that was bought in this shop. She said, in that showcase in your shop, she said, I've still got it. She wouldn't let me have it back.
Okay.
That was awful, wasn't it?
Before we finish, and it's the most obvious question, what would be your particular taste in music, Dan, if you could narrow it down to one particular genre?
Just music.
You just like music?
Music. Anything from classics, country, anything I listen to, anything. The music I've had the most difficulty with was punk. I hated the rhythm of punk. As I said before, music had its rhythms. Rock and roll rhythm, go on, disco rhythm, and then punk came in. And it was...
It wasn't your cup of tea.
It was just...
Was it your cup of tea, Tony? We're talking punk.
Punk.
Didn't mind the Sex Pistols, thought they were alright.
Yeah.
But it's just rock to me. It's just basic rock.
No, it didn't have a rock beat, it just went very, very fast and was in your face, wasn't it? So I didn't like punk, and I've never been keen on rap.
Okay.
I've loved soul, I've loved country, I love classical, I just love classical, I go to the Phil. I just love music, and whereas I will listen to any music, Tony is inclined to only play, I always say this, he hates it, what he likes. So if he puts anything on, it's music he wants to listen
That's
to.
interesting.
Where I put music on to see what it's like and whether anybody else might enjoy it. But Tony doesn't.
With you, Tony, if I may, I always got the impression many years ago that you were a bit of a prog rocker. Into that sort of
rock, metal, started on... First bands I ever liked was Slade and the Sweet, the poppy sort of stuff.
Okay.
Then I got into Queen, and Emma Slate and Palmer was the next one down the line.
Yeah.
So a mate liked them, so...
That's cool.
I'm going to embarrass you now. I remember you liking a record by Jonathan King.
Oh. Tell us more.
I was only 10, wasn't I?
It was a single.
Was that Everyone's Gone to the Moon, was it?
No.
No, it wasn't that.
Which one was it?
Hooked on a Feeling, was it?
Hooked on a Feeling by Jonathan King. But honestly,
Brilliant. Okay. Well, Diane, it's been an absolute pleasure being on the
lovely,
Music Box today. Lovely talking to you.
Yeah, still here in the same place. So my first record
Haven't changed.
60 years ago.
60 years ago.
Yeah. Not many people can say that.
That's what be
A lot of people
1953.
can say they bought their first record 60 years ago, because
Yeah.
a lot of people did.
Yeah.
We've got customers who are 80, 85. We've lost a couple lately, haven't we? But we do have customers. Oh, we've got one who's 91.
Really?
And he came in one day and he said, I bought my first record here in 1942 or 3, I think he said, and it was Bing Crosby singing Trade Winds. I was walking past and I saw the records in the window. We weren't there. We went here then. And he was in the RAF, he was on leave, and he's still alive and kicking, and he was in the RAF with Max Bygraves.
Really? Yeah.
Honestly, he was in the same, and he's a lovely bloke, Tommy, and he still comes in and buys records off us. Lovely old man. So he's our oldest, isn't
Yeah.
he? He must be about 92 now, mustn't he?
I've got to
Yeah.
say, guys, listening to you today and seeing you again after so many years, it's almost like you are the epitome of what I love to do on my on my days off, coming into record shops, but being involved in the music scene in the way you've done it must give you a lovely sense of satisfaction.
It's a lovely
Happiness.
business, but it's a pity about the accountants that came into the business and spoilt it. They did. And when record companies got rid of songwriters, they used to all have their own songwriters who would offer a track, a song to particular artists on the books. Now, then record companies thought, oh no, we'll only sign up people who can write their own songs. So you got all this, well, probably not too bad, lesser quality songs, because I think pop songs should be written by professionals. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But you get these. I don't understand a lot of today's music. I find, probably simply because I always thought the music was more important and it was nice if you could sing it yourself. You can't sing today's songs, can you? You've got to be the artist. You've got to be Beyonce or Rihanna or somebody like that. And the rap stuff, who can sing that? How many karaoke nights in the future are going to be doing rap?
I know. I've seen these young ones in action in town. I don't want to start suddenly dismissing them, but to me, a great pop tune shouldn't involve accountants. It shouldn't involve people who say we're not going to release that as a single. I think if a song is going to hit between the eye, you right between the eyes, say, wow, that's blew my mind. I find it's very rare these days that a song will hit me like that.
No.
Whereas in the years gone by, and I don't want to sound like an old fuddy-duddy, there was an awful lot of songs I would tune in, for example, on Sunday evening where you have the top 20, and there was at least 4 or 5 songs in that top 20 where I say, wow, I need to go out and get there. Another good example is Pete Wingfield's 18 with a Bullet. Remember that one?
Yeah. Still got a copy of that. Yeah. 18 with a bullet.
Boom, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. When I bought that record for you guys, I couldn't stop playing it.
No. Do you remember they shoot horses, don't they?
Yeah.
Things like that were quirky, but they were interesting. Do you remember the first time you heard Wuthering Heights, Kate Bush? What did you think of
I
it?
thought, where's this come from? So different.
Wasn't it? Wasn't it absolutely weird? It was amazing. But it got into it. Took a while because they issued it twice. They had to re-promote it.
Well, I bought the album on the strength of the single as well.
Yeah. And I remember Sultans of Swing, Mark Knopfler. I used to think that was great and recommend it to people, but they had to reissue that as well. And David Bowie's Grand Control to me to Tom, that had to be reissued. First time out, didn't sell. I remember Michael Jackson, Ben. Nobody wanted that when it first came out. And One Day in My Life, that was the one. Michael Jackson, beautiful song. Used to play it to people, nobody wanted it. Took ages for it to catch on. And yet it was such a beautiful song.
That's right.
Was he lovely then?
He was.
Wasn't he? Yeah.
But as I say, just to sum up, Diane, it's like it's such a difficult subject to talk about in a way because, well, one, you can get quite emotional talking about memories and stuff like that, but it's also about being subjective as well. You couldn't go to the fella down the street or the lady up there and say, your music, the music you're listening to is not very good.
Oh, no,
but it's so subjective, isn't it? It's,
no.
it's like Pythagoras came out with a theory I read one time, where he said,
Pythagoras, now we're going.
very clever at Tuebrook, you know.
Yeah.
The music you listen to and enjoy is merely a reflection of the vibration of your soul. I always stuck with me that
Well,
quote.
some music makes you very emotional, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Incredibly emotional.
And it can be the most where you wouldn't expect it to make you emotional. To this day, I listen to Aretha Franklin singing "I Say a Little Prayer," and that starts that song.
Lovely.
I get a love in my throat.
Yeah,
You know?
that was lovely, wasn't it? It was beautiful. I went to see Les Mis this week.
Did you?
And my daughter-in-law and I cried. The music in that is so emotional. It's such wonderful stuff. Yeah, it's lovely if it makes you cry, but most music these days makes you cry for the wrong reasons. It's so
bad.
and awful. It is.
Diane, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Lovely. Yes.
Thank you for having
We've
us.
had all of 4 people in today.
Don't worry, brought you some love. And Tony, thank you for your off-camera comments.
we just sort of sat back and waited really, and what we hope is that we can use that building to deliver a wider range of community services rather than just the childcare that we've got going today.